Hi again. It looks like this one might actually be sort of a part B. Uh, the one I just finished is complete in itself, but I want to tell you now why, when you're in heart, you're always right. How are you doing at accepting your own divinity? If you're working on this, it's going to make you very uncomfortable because what will happen is all the ways that you feel worthless will come to the fore. They will come up in your consciousness and it will be icky and uncomfortable. In order to accept your own divinity, that's what cleaning house looks like. You're sweeping the old programming out, and on its way out, it will come up through your consciousness to be discarded. Now, if a feeling of worthlessness comes up in your consciousness and you just accept it, which we tend to do when we're in mind, you haven't done anything wrong. You just haven't gotten anywhere. You just had an opportunity that you didn't see. That's all. And that's not wrong either. See, if you can accept your own divinity, if you can accept that at the heart of your nature, it's divine, you are of the same substance as God or Source. You're not the fullness of that. None of us are. It's like, I think Nancy Dennison said, you're one train of thought in the mind of God. So you are of the substance of the mind of God, just not the fullness thereof. That's one way to look at it. I mean, these things are difficult and challenging. Not so much, though, if we stay in heart with it. So you're always right. If you're in heart and if you're going with the flow, what you say is right. You, in your conscious mind, won't always have the full perspective and the full understanding of how it's right and how perfect it is, because it's not just right, it's perfect. These things that we call synchronicities, the looking at the clock when it's 2:22 or 5:55 or 11:11 or what, the odds against those kind of things are phenomenal. And sometimes I think we're not giving them their due when we just say, oh, that's a neat synchronicity, and we go on. I think they merit just a very quick pause to tune into what was I just thinking, saying, or doing, because that is a pat on the back, or that's pointing to it and saying you're on the right track, not necessarily a pat on the back, but just you're tuned in, you're dialed in. So you're always right. Now, this is going to be very uncomfortable to a lot of people, especially if you slip over into mind. Doesn't make sense in mental terms. You're not a mind, you have one. Leave it alone. Let it be. Give it a little dunce cap, sit it in the corner just long enough to be in heart and listen here. Okay? Mind doesn't need you to supervise it. It can function just fine on its own. You are free. And you are so much more than that. And to access your multidimensionality, you must transcend the 3D mind. Now, there's a divine mind. You don't go brainless or brain dead. There's a divine mind. I recently learned that even along the spine, neurotransmitters are produced. Those are brain chemicals. If I understood the lecture correctly, the spine itself is a part of the brain, the nervous system, the thinking mechanism. We also know that neurotransmitters are produced in the gut and by the body's physical heart. So it looks to me like mind or thinking is a much more distributed process rather than one that's centralized in the brain. And I'm going to say, if you can be in right brain, that is far more, that might even be connected with heart. I don't know. See, I don't like to look at things as bits and pieces and parts. Specialization, that's what came of us when we went the mental route, when we left spirituality behind and we went with science. These two walked side by side for centuries, for thousands of years. But in the last few centuries, we set aside spirituality in favor of supposedly pure objective science, which ever since the double slit experiment, we know the objective observer is an oxymoron, no such thing. But anyway, to try to stay on track, you're always right. When you're in flow, when you're in heart, you can trust. You're being danced. It's getting this observing thing going that will do this for you. It will do you. You don't do it. This is when you step over from doer. You step away from being a doer, and instead you're just being. It's a big shift. It's a huge shift. Mind won't make it with you. And that's one of the reasons it's such a big shift, is because people are so used to thinking they're wedded to the mind. They're identified with it. And so if you think it's who you are, then when I tell you to give it a dunce cap and tell it to go sit in a corner over there for a few minutes, it's very confusing. That's like saying, watch the thoughts go by, but don't think them. You know, if you think you're the mind, that's not possible. But once you take a step back or higher up into your greater being, then it begins to make sense. We're going to be stepping into a consciousness, a higher consciousness that is so drastically different from what we've got going here now that we're going to laugh. We'll be doing a lot of laughing. We're going to be amazed, mostly at how seriously we took everything. And again, I will suggest, if you want a taste of this, get into heart and go watch any or all of my NDE playlist. And it will give you the sense of your higher self. It will help you rise in vibration. If you're in your heart, people are changed by a true NDE. They're never the same again. They're raised up in consciousness. Their awareness is expanded, and they're more in heart after that. And you can feel that. You can link up with it. Not so much these things where the scientists are talking about it, or it's, that kind of thing, people talking about it. I'm talking about people sharing their personal experience with it. That's the best. The other just takes you into mind, and it's just not going to make the trip into the next level. We have a higher functioning aspect of our being that I'll just call it the divine mind, for lack of anything else to call it. It covers that function, but it's just not the 3D mind. And so you are that. Those people, when they are on the other side and they're wrapped and embraced in that love, sure, they talk about the brightness of the light, but the thing that leaves them most speechless is sensing the love. and sensing that there's nothing wrong with them, that they are absolutely loved. There aren't words for the height, the breadth, and the depth of it. It's not limited. It's just amazing how they are loved, just exactly as they are. Exactly. They don't need to change a thing. There's no right and wrong here. You are perfect. It's all fine. And I'm getting closer and closer to understanding the title of Papa G's biography. 3 great big fat volumes, about 1,000 pages altogether. The title, Nothing Ever Happened. That's food for deep pondering. Okay, I hope I'm not finished yet. All right. I mustn't get too time conscious. I think that's one of the good things about going with the flow is I never used to look at the clock at all. And maybe I need to quit it. I don't know. I'll do what I can to go with the flow here and see. But what's important is that we accept the self. You didn't come here to be perfect, to be humanly perfect. That's all about judgment again, and right and wrong, and good enough, and being bad, and all, that's garbage. That will not make the trip with you into your life review. It has no value of any kind whatsoever. So why not dump it now? Why not let that whole thing go now? And realize, too, I know that we've got to train the children up, and good parents will do that. We can't just give the children carte blanche. There's something about little kids that, they just, especially little boys, like to pull the wings off of flies and things. And training is important, and setting a good example. And so there's some guidance that we provide there. But it's really important, I think, to distinguish between the actions and the child, and never to scold the child. Never, never, never. The child is not bad. The child cannot be bad. The child can make a bad choice. The action can be not even bad, just, unacceptable because, he doesn't want the repercussions for that kind of an action. So it's in his own self-interest to choose differently. So it's a matter of helping the child hone his own free will. Respect. That's something else that I'm finding. When I'm taken into higher consciousness again and again, there is some sort of an ultimate sort of respect, something that we don't find here in 3D very much. But friends, we're the advanced guard here. We're helping usher the new higher levels of consciousness in. And so it behooves us to open wide and allow ourselves to be our higher self, to integrate that, to bring it down, to bring the higher dimensions into our awareness, and to walk in them and talk in them and live in them and share from them. And this respect is a reverent kind of a thing. It looks with eyes of love on everyone, even a Hitler. Okay, there are no judgments. Things are different there. Things are so different. Please, if this doesn't work for you, immerse yourself in people's NDEs. Get the sense of it. Raise your consciousness up. What happens is that in 3D we have the full polarity. This is where you have the hot, cold, the positive, the negative, the up, down, in, out. right, wrong, that kind of thing. Those are properties of a dimension of being where things are accepted to be separate. Now we know they're not. Everything is so fully entangled. Even if it wasn't, everything is got so much water in it that the water itself would bring us the oneness, and it's resonant. We know from the work of Masaru Emoto about water and how it changes just based on words. Say one word to it and you've affected water. Well, if our bodies are how many percent, certainly more than 50% water, we've got a power in the word to structure consciousness like you wouldn't believe. You don't need to be casting spells and things. You do it every day just with the words that you use and how you use them. Okay? This respect is nurturing. It raises you up, as well as raising up the one that you're looking upon. It honors you and who you're looking at. It's beautiful. It's a thing strictly of heart. It's a feeling. And it's divine. There's a humility that's in heart. And maybe that's a part of this. These are divine attributes. These are virtues that are naturally ours in the higher dimensions. They're as natural as the sun shining. It's nothing we have to learn or earn. We just put them on. We just make the shift. We shift our awareness from the head to the heart, from lower consciousness into higher consciousness. You are divine. Very good. Good day.